friends, Trisha Goyer here, and I have Toni Shiloh in the house. I am so excited, Toni, that you're here. We're talking about your new Christmas novella, The Christmas Catch, which so dreamy. Okay, I will get giddy over it in a minute, but first, before we do that, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. I love watching your videos and, of course, reading your books. So I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thanks.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Toni Shiloh. I'm a Christian contemporary author. I've been writing for about 10 years now steadily. I was published as an indie author in 2015, and then with a small press traditionally in 2016. And I've kind of been both published indie and traditional ever since. But lately, the last couple of years, I've been published solely traditionally with books like In Search of a Prince, which is like my Princess Diaries with a little African twist.
It's so good too. I loved it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just known for faith-filled romances with a diverse characters, mainly Black Americans, and yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and so, okay, so I started this book, and I love that it's, and I'll have you explain a little bit more, but, like, this first romance, and he's back, and he's looking good, and, like, which is so funny. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, he's looking good." But I love how, they're just getting to know each other, which I'm gonna have to explain it more, but I wanna say this because last night, we did a one-on-one date with my 13-year-old, and we went to Buffalo Wild Wings, which would
Mhm.
not be my pick to go, but that's where he wanted to go, and they have, like, all the games and all the screens, and I'm literally like, "Oh, I wonder if this character's, like, up," and I'm like, "Wait, this is a fictional character, like, this is not a real person." But I will say I was more interested in the games playing because 'cause I've been reading your book that I'm like, "Oh, let me, like, pay attention to all these screens around me," because I was, like, so wrapped up in your book. So that's just hilarious that I was actually thinking I could see your character on the screen, which he's a fictional person, but I really wanted to see him up there. Anyway, all that to say, tell us about the premise behind your story and why I'm like, "Oh, I want to see him play on TV."
I mean, honestly, that's the highest compliment that you thought he was real for a
Like,
second.
I could, like, watch him. I could, like,
Yeah.
watch him. Yeah.
So, the Jaleel Walker is an NFL football player. He's a wide receiver, and I really love the fact that he's a football player because I'm a football
Mhm.
fanatic. I've been cheering for the Dallas Cowboys since I was little because I'm from Texas, and it was them or the Oilers. So I chose the Cowboys. But
Yeah.
so I love that he's playing football, but when you meet him, you find out like he's just injured himself, and it's pretty bad.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
he returns home to his hometown, Peachwood Bay in Georgia, where the girl next door, who often happens to be his ex high school girlfriend, is still there. So there's this whole tension of they didn't know each other, would ever step foot back in that place. They have their past to deal with, his new injury, and it's it's tension, but it's Christmas, so it's also
Yeah.
fun and cute.
And it's fun and cute, and she has a daughter that adds, like, a little, like, "Aw, so sweet," when he's, like, sweet to her daughter. You're like, "Oh my goodness, yes." Okay, but then you have all the friends, like, her friend is hilarious. I'm like, "I hope there's a book about her." Are you gonna write about a book with her in it?
I I have no idea. I never intended to, but I do have a problem with writing side characters that I'm like, okay, well now I want your story. So
Exactly, yeah, so that's exactly like your last book, To Get Your Prince, the side character in what's the second book called?
to
Uh,
win a prince.
To Win a Prince, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, so good." Okay, anyway, I love the side friend because she's like, oh, so into it with her friend, and her friend's like, "Stop." Okay. But, I love that he's a football player and his injury, and he just, like, had to come home because he happened to be in town, and she's next door, because she's, renting the house from her parents, and so, like, immediately, she's all like, he's home, and he is even cuter than he was before when he left, which is impossible, but it's true, and then he is, like, on narcotics because he just had this injury and he doesn't remember like all the things that he said to her. He calls her like a sweet Georgia peach, I think, or something,
Yes.
which is just hilarious. So right away, like literally, this is the first chapter. So I'm not giving too much away. I could say that. But
Yeah.
right away, you're like, oh my gosh, I love her. Oh my gosh, I love him. And I want to see how this plays out. And you know that there's hurt from the past. And she had a painful situation with her ex-husband. It's like you're just like, okay, I just want more to find out what's happening this. So this is a book, definitely. I think your books too. Like you start right in the middle of the action,
Yeah.
things are happening. We introduce these people right away, and we know because of the pain in the past that there's going to be conflict. But like literally from the first page, you're like, yes, please. I just want to see you guys together. So, how did you come up with the idea for this book?
Um, that's a good question. So I'm a pantser. I don't like to plot. I really like to deep dive into my characters, find out
Mm,
what makes them tick, what any wounds they're holding on to. Always plays a big part, like their upbringing. And for Jalil, his upbringing was really important
mm-hmm.
in this story because him and his dad clash, butt heads so often. So that played a lot into why he left. I'm trying to like be as vague as possible, but
I know it's like, yeah.
why he went to way to college, the feelings he has returning home and being in the same house as his parents, like all of that, his backstory is what matters. And so I just kind of let the characters tell me, like, here's what we're going through. Now, this is our story. And so, BB, like you mentioned, she's divorced and her ex is not the nicest person. And she's a
Mhm.
single mom. So, she's got that hurt along with her hurt from Jalil, breaking up with her. So, they both have a lot on their plate. And I just love the fact that I know that they're gonna get through it on the other side. They're gonna sort out the pain and they're gonna come together, eventually. But when I'm dreaming about the idea, I have no idea how it's all gonna play out.
Yeah. I'm a plotter, and so I can't even imagine. Like, I know this is gonna happen, and this is gonna happen, this is where they're gonna end up, and they surprise me, but it's like you just wake up and like, "Okay, let's gonna see what their interaction is and what's gonna happen today."
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun to me that way because if I know how the story plays out, I'm usually not as invested to show up and write.
Hmm.
But if I don't know, then I'm just like the reader, like, what's gonna happen on the next page? Like, what's gonna happen in the next chapter? Like, the sweet Georgia peach, I laughed. I was like, "Oh, wasn't expecting that comment." Like,
It was just so hilarious because my son had knee surgery when he was 18. But it's so funny because the nurse said like the ones the kids that don't drink or don't do or narcotics because it really like they really throws him for a loop, and the stuff that was coming out of my son's mouth, like he was like telling his nurse like, you're so pretty, are you married, like he's 18, like super shy kid, and he was like, ooh, you're so pretty, I'll take you out on a date. I'm like, first of all, she's like almost 30 and you're like 18, but it was just hilarious. So I could just picture that totally.
yeah.
That yeah, it was just like a perfect thing. I was laughing out loud as I was making dinner and listening. Or yeah, I was having my PDF played to me so I could listen to it because I wanted to keep going with this book and find out what was happening. It was so fun. Anyway, because I got the pre-release copy. All that to say, I'm loving it. All right, so as you're exploring the characters, let's talk about the Christmas theme a little bit,
Okay.
and how you're able to tie that into the book.
Yes. So for them, I thought, what better way to make them get over their differences than to force them together? So they actually end up simultaneously volunteering to provide the entertainment portion of the Christmas ball that their church is going to put on because Jalil's father is a pastor. And so honestly, it was like, ooh, how much Christmas can I put in? Like, what
Mhm.
makes sense to the area? What do people expect in a Christmas book? Um, and so, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I kind of imagine it like holding the hand of confetti and just like dropping it wherever I want.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Christmas lights. Let's talk about, I don't want to give anything away, but well, let's talk about the Christmas ball. What's gonna go
Uh-huh.
into that? Throw some hot chocolate in there because what's Christmas without hot chocolate? Like, all of those little things. Um, and then I'm again trying not to give everything away. Like towards the end, you get to see the Christmas ball, actually happen
Mhm.
on the page. So I thought that was fun. I don't think I've ever written a Christmas ball in any of my Christmas books before.
Yeah. And I love that, because they are in Georgia, where I grew up in Northern California, and there was in the mountains, so there's snow. Like Montana in the mountains, since there was snow. And I remember we moved to Arkansas, and I'm like, it is like 70 degrees outside, and it's Christmas. Like, what do we do? So there is, but you still like celebrate all the Christmas things. I remember I thought it was so hilarious that they had all the Christmas sweaters and stuff in the stores. And I'm like, it still feels like fall outside. Like there's no cold weather. Like, am I really supposed to buy a Christmas sweater just because it's Christmas time of year? And the answer is yes.
Well,
Yes,
yeah,
you do.
when you're from the South, like 70 can feel cold. Like my husband still teases me because as soon as the temperature dips below 75, I'm like reaching for a sweater or a jacket, and he's like, "It's 70 degrees," and I'm like, "It's cold," and he's like, just shakes his head at me, and I'm like, "What? I was born in the summer in Texas. What do you want from me? Like, I need warm weather."
Yeah, and it's so true because now, because like when we first moved here, we were like wearing shorts outside in November, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, it's cold. Like I always have like a sweater or a jacket with me, especially because also they have air conditioning on in the South
Yeah,
in restaurants. That it's so cold in restaurants, so I always like literally take a sweatshirt into me when I go into restaurants. So yeah,
definitely.
but they still, I mean, they're still the same Christmas things, but you just do a little different things differently. There's not snow outside, or rarely, like rarely do we get snow outside. But yeah, but it's still Christmas, and so that's all the fun things. And I love that you also get to see her daughter, and yeah, all the experiences there. So and again, it's like, let's talk about the book without like talking about every
Right?
every detail of the book. I will just say you will not be disappointed. Go get this book. And I think what I love too is that like we read books to get into a different world and different experiences with different people, and just even the things with him being a professional player and how things are different, like coming back home after not being home, and just his worlds are so different where he would just like have it all decorated for him. Like it's neat to see kind of that too. But let's talk about some of your other books too, because I think that you're able to give, because you do, your characters are black, and it's like you said, black Americans, you're able to give a different insight that we don't see in a lot of books. And I know people
Mhm.
are loving it, and people are loving your stories. Why is this important to you to write these stories, and to just be authentic with them, and so that we're part of the journey with your characters?
That's a great question. I think it all stems from a lack of representation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've been reading since I was a child, but none of the characters looked like me. And if
Mm-hmm.
they did look like me, they were probably a side character and didn't get their own story.
Mm-hmm.
So when I decided to start writing, I was like I want to see Black Americans front and center,
Yep.
and I want to see them in all the different kinds of stories that I've read before. Like, I want to see them as a princess. I want to see
Mm-hmm.
them as, the celebrity, the athlete, like whatever I can think of. I just wanted to see how I can show how a Black American deals in those situations. Um, and I'm having fun doing it. And like you said, a lot of the readers, they've written me or tagged me on social media, and they love seeing that. Even ones who aren't African Americans, like they
Mm-hmm.
still feel like they're growing, learning. Like you said, they're on their journey with the characters as well.
Yeah, and I love it. So, like, one of my dearest friends, and actually, she shows up in one of my recent books. She's actually a character. Miss Jan is a character in my book. But I led a teen mom support group for many years, and she was my co-leader. And she's black, 70, and sassy is who Miss Jan is, and I love her to pieces. But I love that, and like just spending time with her, it is like the way she would say things or the way she'd even talk to the young moms. I'm like, I don't think I'd ever get away with that. But she's just able to say it. And I think some of your characters too, like, oh, she just said that. Like, I don't know. But it's so funny. And so I love to see because we all have people that we love. But you're right, it's not they're not represented in our fiction at all. It's so um it's just like well, and for so long it was just like young and white and beautiful. Like that
Right.
was in everything. But I even like now that BB is divorced and she's a
Yeah.
single mom. Like I think we're seeing more of that in Christian fiction. I think people or older characters, um, they have kids in their 20s and they're finding love again. Or I think we're seeing and so much of that. And I think we are readers are loving it. I think we're appreciating it because we interact with people of all different ages through our lives. We have friends from all different backgrounds, and it does get tiring when they're just young, white, and pretty or handsome. Like we're like
Right.
I I interact with a lot more people that are not that that are that, and so I love
Exactly.
that Christian fiction is like expanding, and readers I think are showing up and they're really loving it. And I know your books have done very well, and so I think we're like yes, okay, so thank you for doing that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So what are you working on? I know you're always probably working on multiple things. So what's something that you're working on that we can look forward to?
So I signed a sports romance contract with Bethany House. So the first book is going to be hockey romance. So I'm in the research stage, thinking all things hockey. Um, and there's another secret tidbit that I'm researching as well. I don't want to give it away, but like
Okay.
people will figure it out once they read the book. But yeah, so I'm in research stage, doing the deep dive into the characters so that I can write them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the hockey, do you know what the other two sports are? Can you tell us or?
Oh yeah, so the first one's gonna be hockey, and then the second book is going to be basketball.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that you're like you love football and that like because it shows up in the book, which is cool. And I was a cheerleader in high school and
that's
literally
awesome.
had never watched football until like you're having to cheer for football and they're like, "Oh, you're not supposed to be cheering for defense right now. You're actually supposed to be cheering for offense." So I had to learn football to be able
Right?
to cheer for football. And now I enjoy watching football, but literally my husband does not watch sports, which is so funny cuz like I'm like, "Oh, look, there's a game on." He's like, "I'm not interested." So I'm more of a fan, but that it was super fun. But
Yeah,
I
I
love that
love
you're
all the sports.
yeah. Do you guys like are you a sports family where you guys are watching all the sports all the time or
So I would say me and my husband are. My kids really aren't. Which I don't know. Maybe I've been too like rabid in my fandom and turned them off. I don't know. But me and my husband, we watch them. We'll go to all the different sports games because we live right near DC, so you have
Oh,
all
okay.
the
Yeah.
sports. So we've been out to the football games, the hockey, basketball, baseball, UFL. Like if they have it, we've probably been to it.
Which is awesome that you're gonna be writing about that now because
Yes.
you've been there. Yeah, and I think it's definitely when you are there live. Like we went to a Arkansas Razorbacks game with my brother who's a big sports fan and it was so
Mhm.
fun. But we were like there and it was free actually it was freezing in Arkansas, like the coldest day of the year ever. It was like 29 degrees. We were there at the game, but it was so fun. But I love that, it's something that you love and enjoy, which definitely is going to come through in the characters, which is really fun. Um, but it's so funny that like our kids are more interested in sports and my husband's like no. So this last year we're like I'm gonna do like a real Super Bowl party, like we're gonna watch the whole game. And so I we haven't done it. I've been married 34 years. We've never done it. I like bought all the snacks and we watched the whole game. And because we were like all excited to do it, we had like it was so fun. Like
That sounds
we
awesome.
enjoyed it. So we're like, we're growing to be more
Yeah.
sports people as a family. And my kids were so happy. Older kids came home with their
Aw.
families. Like we made it a big day. So It's growing on me. And then last night, I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings looking for Jaleel on the like big screen. Like he has to be up here somewhere.
That's so awesome.
So yeah. All right. So as you're going through this writing journey, you talked about you both do indie and traditional publishing. Has there been things about traditional publishing that has surprised you as you've like entered into like just like you said, doing mostly traditional publishing now?
That's a great question. Um, I don't want to say, I think what surprised me is how much more stressed I was in the beginning. Because I was thinking, oh, now I'm going to have people helping, like they'll already have editors, cover designers, like I'll be less stressed because I'm not doing everything on my own. But then I felt like the pressure, like I don't want to disappoint them. Like, will they like it? Will am I doing a horrible job? Will they tell me if I'm doing a horrible job, or will they, like, not tell me? But, like, my brain will just spiral. I would be like, "Of course they're gonna tell you because they don't want the book to be bad.
Yeah.
They don't want the release to flop." But then you're like, "But really, will they tell you?" Like, your just brain just goes on, and I was like at one point, I was like, "You have to stop. You're never gonna write this story if you keep this up, so, like, chill out."
Yeah. So what was your first traditionally published one?
Um So with Bethany House, my first one was In Search of a Prince.
Okay, so that one. Yeah, and that was like a big release. Like I think it did really good. Like I don't know. I yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised, and I honestly, I think it was the cover that really
Mhm.
made the big splash because everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, I want that dress," and I was like, "So do I." Like,
I know. Yeah. And well then I mean the cover drew them in, but then the book is like people were talking about the book too. And yeah, it was so fun. Yeah. Like you said, it's like the Princess Diaries, but not, but more. Like more in depth, more interesting characters, more yeah. So very good. Very cool. Okay, so you're working on the hockey books. This is releasing. Do you have like more plans after that? Or are you just like, nope, this is do you just do like one thing at a time or are you always kind of like thinking of other things to come?
so yeah, I'm always thinking I cannot shut it off. Um, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm always like, "Oh, I have this story idea. Like, can I sneak this in somewhere in the lineup? Like, do I
Mm,
actually have time to write it? Like, can I write it just an hour? How long that will take?" Yeah, my brain is always thinking of other books, other ideas.
yeah, mine too. Like all the time. I'll
Right.
just be we were there and it'll be at an airport and I'm like, oh, those people over there. What if? And my kids are like, Mom, stop.
It's true. Like, even if it's just like hearing a song and I'm like, "Oh, this song is so good. Can I turn it into a book? Because like this is so true. This moment happens." Like,
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, my kids are like everywhere we go, and then they'll hear me like I'm not paying attention to the table because I'm listening to the conversation like on the next table. I'm like, oh, oh yeah, that would be good for a scene of a book. And they're like, Mom, and I'm like, yeah, you basically you can't turn it off. So it's
yeah,
always fun, and I love that. I love that there's always those things that we can think about, and then we see like how could this play out in a story, and then how
mhm.
also we could tie the spiritual message. So let's talk about that too a little bit as we're wrapping it up. But like why is it important to have that aspect in your books? Like because we have definitely have like these amazing heroes and these women and we just learn so much and then you have like the football or hockey or whatever, but then you have the spiritual message. So why is that important for you to have that in your books?
Um, so for me, I figured it was the only, not the only way, but it's the one way I thought I could use a talent to glorify
Mhm.
God. Um, when I first wanted to write, I kind of just like sat in a closet with God and I'm like, can I really do this? Like,
Mm.
w- would you help me? Like, and so I decided right then and there, if it's something like I truly had a talent in and that I could use to, reach people, that I was going to surrender it right then and there to God and just like let him have the reins. And it felt like from that moment, like the spiritual message just showed up every single time. Um,
Mm.
And so for now I'm at the point where I'm like, I will always have it. Like, I always wanna
Mhm.
honor him that way. I learn from it just as much as I hope that the readers are learning from it. Like, every single time God meets me in the pages and shows me something I probably needed to work on just as much as the characters do.
Yeah, I always feel like, "Oh, this is a message you're teaching me, and I'm glad the characters get to grow in this journey, and I'm glad that a reader will get something, but this is what I needed to hear right now." So, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
And I
which
think
is
it makes it more authentic when you're learning right along with the characters,
mhm.
because the readers can feel like it's not forced. It's just a general, exploration between you and God, and the readers.
Yeah, I love that, and like, inspiration is like the breath of God, and there's truly, like, those moments like, "Oh, this is what this book is about." Do you have those moments?
Yes, yes, yes. When I wrote To Win a Prince, I had that moment because I wrote that in a difficult time in my life, and I kept like telling God, I was like, "You're just gonna have to show up. Like, I'm not sure how this is gonna get done." And it was probably like three-fourths end where like the light bulb came in, and I was like, "Oh, is this what this is about?" Like, I was like, "That is so amazing." Like, I just had to stop writing and like just worship God. I was like, "It was
Mhm.
amazing." I didn't even see it. Like, but God's in the details, so He had it from beginning to end.
Yeah, it's so good, and that's truly where it shows you that, like, we can only do this with God. Like, I
Yes.
wouldn't, and I know other people do. I don't know how, and I wouldn't want to because I feel like, "This is so good." I'm like, "Thank you," and I couldn't have done it by myself. Yeah,
Here, here, definitely.
I love it. Okay, so The Christmas Catch is the name of this book. It's adorable. I have not seen a cover. I wish I could see the cover, but
Oh,
is it out there?
it is. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I have to go look. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go look. But I love the characters. So where can people find more information about you and this book and all the things?
Yeah, so if you go on my website, ToniShiloh.com, you can find out about me. You can sign up for my newsletter. I also have a books tab, so the Christmas catch is on there. You can pick whatever your favorite retailer is and pre-order it or purchase it, depending on what time frame this comes out. And yeah, that's where all my information is. Social media links too.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed myself.